Thank you very much. Welcome everybody back to Council Annual Plan submissions, including revenue and with some. Just before we go, I would like to amend there's an apology came in by the start of the meeting this morning from Sandra Wilson, but it got held up in the tech world.
Sandra Field.
Sorry, Sandra Field. I also move that she be added. Councillor Field be added to the list of apologies. Would like seconded to that. Councillor Dalgety, all those in favour? Those against? Carried. I'm also aware that Helen Costa submission that she asked to appear hasn't appeared. There's been an apology there. So we'll just receive that as a submission, as a written submission at this stage. Thank you very much. The first submission that we have this afternoon, a submission from Joe Ranguni. Joe, you're aware of the timeframes. You have 10 minutes, including question time. How you use that time is up to you. We're used to seeing your face at submissions, and we thank you for that. And Joe, the time is yours.
Okay. Thank you for time to speak to my submission, and thank you to the Mayor and councillors and staff who supported the mayoral volunteer award. It was a splendid time and just lovely to see wonderful people. There are so many very interesting, different people in our community, and to be in a room with them, I think a lot of us found a very, very pleasant experience. So thank you to you people. Council's annual plan is very important for finding creative solutions. Today, I think we've just got to think differently. And I think being strategic. I was advising a mayor at the little party on Monday, and he was going to be dealing with lots of problems. And I said to him, give them to someone lower down the chain. You need to do the strategy. And as he said, see, I'm telling you one clue. He said that he thought he'd think about it. But I do think in today's world, the strategic thinking is terribly important. We have so many different people in our communities, and the youth today, I think, face enormous challenges. Traditional thinking, I think we've just got to change our approach to some things. Written here, while AI is in the room, we have a grandson in New York, and AI we need to make work for us, and it will work for us. I can remember when computers came in and we went to Massey to learn how to use them with children in schools, and we introduced them in schools. I think embracing change is very important. I can remember we brought Maori language into schools in Fielding in the 70s. And again, it's this embracing change. And so many people struggle with that, and particularly old people. And of course, we're an ageing community. So it's a challenge to you to help this ageing community. A lot of them don't have digital stuff, and everything today is digital. You go anywhere, they say go online, go online. I can't be bothered going online. I like to see a face and a person and do that eye to kānui to kānui stuff. But that's what it is. And government, I feel today, is making enormous demands. You know Rangitikei, you know the roads, you know the water challenges, you know the wastewater challenges. I don't know how you deal with that, but I think there's people lobbying government, and some of them have a lot of money, and I think that's a very big change in our times. People with money getting their way when a lot of our community work has changed. People struggle to find rent jobs, and I was sitting by some fortunate friends at my party again, and they couldn't understand some people who don't have jobs and don't work. They thought it was their problem. Well, I would think differently. So, Pōtakae a te rangatira ke kōrero. The food of chief is dialogue.
Awesome.
Can I question that?
Joe, are you happy to take questions?
I'm very happy to take questions.
Questions from councillors, please. Thank you.
I'm Diana Beard. I'm from the Northern Ward.
I'm quite deep actually. So
I'm Diana Beard
right,
from the Northern Ward.
right.
And you say that it's important that we embrace change. Are there some changes you think we shouldn't embrace? And so you've given an example perhaps of
Well, I would
the
say throw away
face-to-face
your
rather.
phones.
Oh,
I don't have one. I'm in it. I think digital, we've got to be very weird. I think people matter more than the digital thing. I mean, Bronwyn's an expert in digital and empowering people in Palmerston. And I'm suggesting it would be great if the Rangitikei did something to support people who don't have access to digital stuff. So, yeah, no, we can only do our best. And you know your Tai Happy community, and it's different from Hunterville, and it's different from Bulls, and it's different from rural. So you've got to look after Tai Happy, but be aware of the rest.
Question, Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Joe. Just looking at your submission on the revenue and financing policy, you've got costs should be shared more broadly to keep services affordable, and you've ticked that you're in favour of that approach. Would you consider that to be an approach for the entire cost of council as a broad share, as a cost as a bundle? You think it's or?
Well, it's very difficult. I mean, I see council as very challenging because there are people that, you know, the rates is a major struggle, but then you've got to do your work. So, although I do think this, I mean, you know far more than me about all this stuff, but I can't help thinking it is a challenge to think differently. What you can do, I'm sure everything's going up and all the old stuff under the, you know, the water and pipes and stuff under the ground. It's really challenging. So that doesn't help.
Councillor Dalgett.
Just interested in your submission, you talk about effective succession plans, particularly for younger councillors. Have you got any ideas on what we should be doing to ensure?
Well, I think we need
remain
every
effective
voice at the table, and I mean, I don't have much to do with young people at all. We've only got one grandson, so don't know about young ones. The children around the town are very, very happy. But again, I think it's a challenge to be creative about how you get these voices. It scares me to death when I see a lot of decision makers who all look the same. And when you see on TV all these people and they all look the same, and you think, oh, not very happy with that. I do like to see a range of people and a range of interests. And, you know, the more inclusive you can be and find those people who struggle to get time to get here. You know, I think that Ngindami in New York having free childcare and encouraging women to get out and do stuff. I think, again, it's a matter of your community. And
Thank you.
Not a question, but a comment. Your thoughts about strategic thinking are right on the button, because the government have just told us we've got 3 months to sort things out. So
Pardon?
the government have just told us we've got 3 months to.
Councillor, there needs to be a question.
Oh, sorry.
Process, I'm sorry. Any further questions, council? No, well, look, Joe, thank you.
That's
Thank you very
fine. Thank
much
you for your time.
Well done.
Thank you, Joe.
And again, congratulations. Felicity, we're running a bit ahead of time because we've had one person as not shown. Would you like to present now, or would you prefer to wait till your time?
I'm not actually doing the presenting,
Okay,
so yeah, I'll just wait.
okay, thank you.
Your worship, our next submitter is just on their way, just signing.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Federated Farms.
Federated Farms.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And my computer's done.
This is like your whole.
It's only got your emails. I don't-
Beautiful music.
With Heidi coming.
On behalf of Fed Farmers, I note, Tim, that you have a separate submission later. In terms of process, you will be well aware of the rules. You have 10 minutes, which includes question time. And the councillors can use that time to ask you questions. You can't ask questions of councillors. How you use that time is up to you. With about a minute to go, I'll just quietly say loud enough for you to hear that there's a minute left. Any questions around process? The time is yours whenever you want to start.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Is our slides in the system?
They have. We've had circulation of information that has gone out to the councillors. I presume that it's on your slide. Your time hasn't started yet, but we'll clarify that. Start.
It's in the terms of what we given.
So the councillors have had access to it. Did you wish to speak to it?
Yes, please, if that's possible. There is a graph there.
Are you able to bring that up on screen?
Yep, brilliant. Next one. Yep, go down one. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the next one.
It's listed as a session.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Yeah.
All right,
Right.
sorry.
It wasn't in the main submission. The attachment.
Yes.
Oh. Thank you.
Right, your time starts now. How use it's yours.
Great. Well, look, thank you very much for the opportunity again. Yeah, Ian Strong's my name. I'm a sheep and beef farmer from the other side of the river there. We've got Peter Manager, our policy manager, and you know Tim very well. Right. First off, well done for getting your rates down below what you had in your long-term plan. I'm sure it came back through this room a number of times, and I understand with the cost crisis we've got, it's hard to make these cuts, and you've cut into them a fair bit from your original plan. So first off, a bouquet and well done for that. So I understand. I know it's a lot of hard work doing that. It still is above the rate of inflation, however, and inflation's obviously going to rise. Your forecast rise was based on 3.1% inflation, and it looks like we're going to get over 4% with the oil shock. Yeah, so we even though the average rate rise is 6%, we're finding most of our farmer members are near double figures, and a big part of that is the not having a differential on rural land. And when rates rise, it's the way the general rate's structured. It's the bigger property owners that pay a larger share of that of whatever the rate rise is. And so I'd just like to use that graph as an example. Now, the red line's your 3.1%. If rates, say $15,000, someone paying $15,000 rates was at the rate of inflation 3.1, it scoots along quite linear. 4.1, curve starts to bend a bit. Now, we've had a number up to 11.4, some even larger. At 7%, you notice the curve starts to the line gets a bit of a curve on it, and that's the effect of compounding. It starts to unravel. So at a 7% annual rate rise, your rates double every 10 years. And at that 11.4%, which some people are having, your rates actually triple in 10 years. So it's just I'm not sure whether the government's signal that's going to put a cap on rates. They're going to have to do a whole lot of other stuff to go with that. But if that doesn't go through, that's where rural rates are headed. So it just gives you an indication of the situation. And yeah, so we're asking for an equitable system. If the rates rise, we'd like to see a more even share of it. Obviously, this council is reasonably unique. You're very reliant on your rural rate take, and we understand that. And we also understand that there's all sorts of cost pressures and bits and pieces, but that's why we've come up with a number of solutions. We're pretty good at pointing out when things aren't done right at Fed Farmers, but we've actually come up with some solutions. And I think, Andy, I've circulated the report. So restoring local confidence in local government, we put that out last year. And one of the main things which affects this council, obviously, rural roading is a major cost to this council. We'd like to see that centrally funded up to 90%. So you keep 10% and ownership of that of those of that road maintenance. So that'll be there's a whole lot of stuff in that. It's a 10-point plan. And not only that, obviously there was the announcement this week about which was nothing new, about where we're headed and with in terms of restructuring, and that's the one page we've sent around, and there's a lot more detail with this bigger report too. So yeah, how are we going for time?
For about 6 minutes.
Okay, cool. Right. Just going through. So yeah, so look, we do sympathise with the council with a lower urban population, but we'd just like to see those rises spread a bit better. There's a number of things here, a number of things we think could be cut back. detailed in our submission. And then there's the last niggly thing about, you know, you are one of the high cost dog registration councils. We have 5 in the Manawatu Rangitaki area. We've got 5 district councils in it, and you're certainly the highest for that. And you're the only one not to have a rural rating differential. The only one. Okay, so which is one. Right. So So anyway, so like I can take. Peter's just going to go through this next table very briefly, but we can take questions on our submission. And if you've got any queries about our plans for restructuring local government, we'd love to answer those for you while we're here. Peter.
So you can see from the table, I submitted what those sample rate increases are for rural farm properties from the previous time. And you are looking at some double figures there. For farmers, this year, they're going to be paying a lot more in diesel and fertilizer costs. The world is globally in a very serious and precarious situation now. That wasn't the situation back in February. Nobody could have foreseen this, but it is, I think, really important. But for everyone, it's just common sense to try and avoid spending on the nice to haves now, because we don't know where this is going. This is a lot of governments around the world in April were thinking this was going to be temporary. Last night I was in a seminar where we had a briefing from MPI, and they were saying that situation is changing rapidly. There are now governments overseas are starting to implement emergency measures for trying to save and ration fuel, and we're going to have to be right behind them. And this, if we get our Reserve Bank putting up interest rates as they are, we really don't need any other forces contributing to interest rate increases. We are in a really painful period, and there are so many farmers in Rangitikei who are sheep and beef farmers, and they don't get the payout that Fonterra farmers got. You know, that's not part of their income stream. All farmers have got to earn money is the sale of farm produce at the gate, and that is only very elastically related to property value. Property value is a really poor proxy for trying to assess ability to pay for those farmers, and that's why we want some more recognition of a rural differential, maximise the uniform annual general charge that everyone has to pay for services, and if that causes people to feel pain, then stop spending also. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that for the questions.
A couple of questions from me. The first of all, some of which are relating to in terms of rural has gone up, the proposed rate increases above urban. That is driven by land-based valuation. Are you saying that should not be a system that council use?
Yes, but if you use a differential like your neighbouring councils,
we should be capital based still.
Yeah.
Second question: are you aware that we do use differentials
on your SUIPs? Yeah, I'm aware of that, but there's a lot on the general rate that you don't use differentials for.
Are you aware that we use differentials the other way, where differentials commercial, industrial are high?
Yes, we do. Yeah, which we agree with.
In forestry roading rate.
Thank you. I don't want to dominate here. Other councillors, you're jumping with questions, otherwise I'd continue. Councillor Wong.
Thank you for Jeff Wong, Northern Ward councillor, not a farmer, but living in a farm dominated area. I see your submission has a lot of reference to the inflation rate, which is a consumer CPI. And as you have said yourself, the fuel prices and your super prices have gone up. So Along those same lines, are you aware that council's inflation isn't rated along the ways of the CPI, but it's more the infrastructure rate of inflation, which is a lot higher than the CPI has been especially for the past 6 years. So do you take that into account when you? I mean, it looks good that, but is that something you actually have understood?
Yeah. Sorry, just quickly, Peter. The CPI is a reasonably general and clumsy method of measuring how costs go up in the whole economy, right? And everyone's going to be either side of it, and the average is the CPI. So when rates go up bigger than the CPI, that part of the economy rates becomes a bigger cost to the rest of the economy. It grows bigger. So over time, and you can go back to that graph of mine. That's how councils are growing cost bigger than the other costs that ratepayers pay.
So I take your answer, you are aware. I'll allow one last question because we're over time. Councillor Dalgety, please, the question and the answer needs to be.
Thank you very much for all that you do for our farmers out there. I'm interested in your thoughts around the UAG, and here we are with a cost of living crisis, and that is affecting our urban people critically at the moment. So do you think, I'm interested in your thoughts around, is this the right time to be increasing the burden on them?
The burden is increasing on everyone, and if there is a measure that needs to be taken, then it is how much everyone is contributing to general services that everyone benefit from, and not sort of splitting that on a notion that farmers who have higher capital values can afford to pay more, because farming income is not really well related.
Sorry, I need to stop you. In fairness to our submitters, and I'm sure that some of your questions will be taken effectively by Tim. Thank you for your submission. And you will receive, of course, advice and where possible, we try and meet the sector groups as well. So thank you.
Your Worship, can I extend an invitation to Council for our Manawatu Rangitaki Fed Farmers AGM at Te Matapihi, your very good community centre at Bulls, tomorrow at 4:30. Love to see any of you there.
We appreciate the
4:30.
4:30.
Yeah.
And there's one tonight in Whanganui at Whanganui Vet Centre.
Yeah, thank you, councillors. The next submitter we have is Jennifer Lamb, Alcohol Wealth Watch, and she's online. Jennifer. We're joined by Jennifer and Andrew. And in terms of the submission, who is speaking to it, or are you both speaking to it?
Good morning. It'll be me speaking primarily, and Jennifer will be available for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. The rules of submission are quite clear. To be fair to others, we try to limit you to 10 minutes, which involves question time. You can be assured that councillors have had access to your submission. That time effectively is yours, and go for it when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship, and it is a pleasure to be here to talk to you today. Thank you for making the time for us to just give an oral submission to, like you've said, Your Worship, the written submission that we submitted. By way of introduction, I'm Andrew Galloway. I'm the Executive Director at Alcohol Health Watch, and I'm joined by my colleague Jennifer Lamb. This submission is on licensing fees, and it's part of the feedback on Council's proposed fees and charges for 26-27 year. Alcohol Health Watch is a national organisation. We aim to provide credible, up-to-date evidence and advice regarding alcohol policy and planning matters. We coordinate networks such as the Cross Council Local Alcohol Policy Network and other networks and projects that support the sector and communities minimise alcohol harm. We know that of all drugs available in our society, alcohol is the most harmful. It's the leading cause of preventable death, injury and ill health in Aotearoa, New Zealand. The harms are far-reaching and felt deeply by individuals, whānau and community. Alcohol places a significant burden on the district and in fact the whole country. It costs over 9.1 billion annually, and we know that what evidence there is likely an underestimate of the total burden of disease that particularly affect vulnerable groups and those at greatest risk, young people, Māori, Pacific, and those in high socio-economic deprivation areas. We're here to talk about the alcohol licensing fees and encourage your council to make an alcohol fees bylaw that would enable fees to be set that reflect the costs borne by council in administering, monitoring, and enforcing alcohol licensing. The licensing regime was built with local government at the centre having a key role supporting that system of control over the sale and supply of alcohol. The alcohol licensing regime and fee setting aspect of that is a really important component of that system. It's part of a package of measures which, when used comprehensively, can create safer environments and significantly minimise rates of hazardous drinking and subsequent alcohol harm. It includes alcohol control bylaws, local alcohol policies, and other related plans and policies. The Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act 2012 envisaged full cost recovery for alcohol licensing. However, the fees prescribed in the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Fees Regulations 2013 have not kept pace with the costs faced by councils. As a result, many councils have raised concern that they are subsidising the alcohol licensing work, including monitoring and enforcement, through general rates. The shortfall in revenue is likely to be compounded if the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Improving Alcohol Regulation Amendment Bill is enacted. This bill, currently before Select Committee, is expected to change risk-based cost formulas for clubs and restaurants to introduce additional administrative requirements relating to the standing of objectors, certification requirements, the right to respond, changes to renewal of licences and other related processes. These proposed changes are likely to place further pressure on council resources, in particular your licensing inspectors, perhaps your district licensing committees, with the potential for additional costs to arise through future regulations made at the recommendation of the Minister. While the alcohol fees on the council's website indicate that the fees and the regulations will continue to apply for 26-27 year, we do encourage the council to consider a specific bylaw, and we note that a growing number of councils are doing so. These bylaws can cover the actual cost of alcohol licensing in the district so far as allowed. An alcohol fees bylaw is a logical option for your council, even more so given the predicted increase in costs. The setting of realistic fees would meet the policy objectives of the licensing regime, namely that to recover the total reasonable cost incurred by the council administering the licensing system, to ensure that those that create the need for regulatory effort bear the commensurate cost, to allow local circumstances to be reflected in the fees paid by operators and income received by council. And ultimately, everything we do in the space is aimed at minimising alcohol-related harm to the extent that this can be achieved. An alcohol fees bylaw that sets fees that reflect the true cost of alcohol licensing is not only an effective harm reduction measure, but also supports positive community outcomes and aligns with the council's strategic goals. That is the submission. We're very happy to take your questions. Kia ora.
Thank you. Questions from councillors. Councillor Deputy Mayor Dave Wilson.
Thanks, Andrew. Dave Wilson. You mentioned you mentioned that a number of other councils are uptaking or enacting a policy along the lines of what your submission is. How many is that? And do you have any stats around that?
It's in the written submission. The reference is in there.
The actual number of councils?
I can read them for you. Hamilton City Council, Hastings, Hutt City, Kapiti, Matamata. There's about 12.
Thank you. Got that. My bad.
No, you're good.
Further questions by councillors? I've looked at some of those examples. Do you have an example of a local council, Whanganui or Manawatu? Sort of city?
We don't have anyone neighbouring, but there is a range of sizes of councils, and certainly there are some smaller ones in there that I think would be quite relative. I will note that some councils have chosen to do it over a staged process, just to be as fair as they can to their local hospitality providers or those paying those fees. The best example I think I've seen is the Porirua one, if you want an exemplar to look at.
The supplementary to that, in terms of the process to enact that bylaw, when they did it, was that part of a long-term plan consultation process as opposed to an annual plan process?
I believe it was through the annual plan. I will call on Jennifer, my colleague, if you'd like to.
Jennifer.
Porirua, I think it was done as a separate bylaw, but most of them are done through the annual plan process, and then there's a specific way which is outlined in the submission to make a fees bylaw and using the special consultative procedure in the Local Government Act.
Yes, that's why I've read that. That's why I wondered with the special consultative procedure as to whether it would be more appropriate to be done by long-term plan in association with that.
Most of them have done it as a separate process, as a normal bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Further questions for councillors? No, well, thank you very much for your submission. And it's something that we will need to look into and understand a little bit further.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, members.
Take advice. Thank you. The next submitter we have is listed as Felicity Wallace. In the interest of residents of Martin, I understand, Felicity, you're not presenting it.
It's Irma who's the submitter.
Yeah.
So I just made the submission on behalf.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So Jeff, is it you?
Yeah,
submitting?
Jeff is-
Jeff, if you'd like to go down to. If I'll just explain the rules again, because you just weren't in the room. You have 10 minutes, which includes question time. How you use that time is absolutely up to you.
Okay.
Because if you use question time, councillors can ask questions of you, but you can't ask questions of council.
Okay.
The time's yours.
Okay, good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors and staff. Those that don't know me, my name's Jeff Mills, and on behalf of IRMR, I welcome this opportunity to comment further on the annual plan. We appreciate the main set of documents council has produced to meet the annual plan. I'm just going to refer to it as the AP if you're happy with that. I think there's recognition the contents were fairly indigestible, so council has wisely produced this glossy, as I'll refer to it, as we go through the afternoon. More importantly, this is the document that most ratepayers will look at to decide whether they're going to make a comment or how council's affecting those sort of things from there. In our opinion, we don't believe it has done a lot to strengthen the social contract between council and the communities. And as a communication tool, it seems to have not met its requirements as well. As we go through the contents of it, it seems to offer lip service to the concept of engagement in terms of consultation. If you're looking for data and trends in that document there, it's very weak on that. And that's the information people need to sort of refer to before they make comments or put in a submission and go from there. And our other view is that there's a strong impression that council doesn't want us to comment on capital projects as you go through this one. And I'll reference our concerns with that as I go through the presentation. Finally, on a general comment on that document there at the moment, it seems to focus on two open-ended questions. There are some very narrow views on narrow defined policies. The previous speakers found that of interest, and that was his particular angle to go from. So we find it a bit tough for council to start asking for feedback when you don't provide the information to think about before they can make a considered opinion and go from there. We look around, and in contrast, we've got two draft documents here, one Whanganui and one Parness North City. They're clear, they're lucid, they've got the data, they've got facts, they've got a few graphs. They tell you what happens, they tell you the information from there. And if I was in Palmerston North and I was worried about them putting in a roundabout in our country where I live, I'm concerned about traffic. I can go through that, and I can find out they're not going to do it this year. They've allocated $2 million. The funding's not going to be spent this year because NZTA is not coughing up with a required subsidy. So it's on the back burner. So clear as that. For the glossy, there's information, but there's not information. It seems to imply everything in the garden is lovely. Okay, that's a very facetious comment, and I'll go through it. We're sort of unsure how this got tucked through the council process to be considered suitable for public consultation, and maybe a rethink after you can take our opinions into account, or reconsider and go from there. Big question comes out of this. It's the big thing. Is the council going broke? We can't answer that. Probably not. You've got all sorts of financial gurus and all sorts of people sitting in this room from here. But as I went back through, and part of the group went back through some of the finances, there were major significant differences there. There's a $10 million in one area, there's another 4.5 that you can't account for. Okay, maybe I'm ignorant and I can't read balance sheets and work my way through it from that. But there's a gloss over summary type table that could have gone on there to give people reassurance. I suppose the good news story is that the LTP forecast of 10.75% increase, the AP suggests maybe it's going to be a 6.4. I'm not too certain what's going to happen after what happened with the minister's comments yesterday and the world situation. But information in Palmerston North, I can find out how they got to their figures. What's being left out? What's not being done? Can I be cynical and say maybe what's not being done is that you're increasing the deficit by 4.5 million somewhere for this year? Or is it real efficiency savings? Doesn't have to be complicated, but it just has to explain where the heck it's going. The other worrying thing is, how do these trends relate to increased borrowing when there's enough evidence to suggest that council can't deliver its capital projects in the financial year? Okay, I could go on and go from there, but okay, the other thing that derived out of this is that ratepayers, the chitter chat around is we're waiting for outcomes to come from the council's action plans. Council seems to have difficulty delivering capital projects. Sometimes the usual concern is time and on budget, but sometimes there's no delivery at all. So we go on and on and on. Is there an institutional problem in there that needs to be looked at to sort out what's going on? We don't need to see what's there. We need to see the fix in terms of performance data. Okay, we reluctantly give you our money. You take it as rates. So, okay, you've got our money, you've got our rates. There's a management system in place to deliver. But there's big gaps in there. You know, without being too facetious again, we've waited 20 plus years for a drinking water supply in Martin. How can that be considered acceptable? Okay, there's been change in courses around the table. A lot of you people weren't here 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So what's the problem? What's the fundamental problem in there that needs to be sorted out to make certain we can deliver goods? Go to Fielding down the road. They delivered a plant within 6-8 months, does the job, cost effective, where it goes from there. We can't do it. The AP doesn't give a clue as to what's going on with projects. It's the doubt that's the worrying thing. It fuels the negativity in the community. Try talking to people down at the water tanker down at the hall and see what the posturings that you get from that, what people feel about what's happening. You know, that's the water cooler talk that should spark what you do and how you deliver here. Okay, we know there's issues in Martin on projects. I'm not going to rattle them off. You've got the swim centre, the council building, the supply of water. You know, I don't need to go through those. What I'm concerned about, or what on behalf of RMR, our view, is this glossy glosses them over. There's lovely statements in there. Okay, I'm not clever enough to delve down into the financials, and I've got a stack of them here to find out what's happening with these projects. It'll be there, and if I get alongside an accountant, they'll probably explain to me what's going on. But for me, that has some experience in looking at balance sheets, I have trouble. Also, recently, the Connect in the paper, your little bulletin thing, produced a lovely little graph in there. Good first step. But why wasn't that diagram dressed up with what Palmerston North does, put the AP, the LTP variation information in there and issue it in the council glossy for here? It would have been taken a lot of the doubt, dampened down a lot of the negativity and gone from there. The other councils can do it. What's our problem? Okay, harking back into the Martin water supply strategy and its associated projects, we can get into that and it's not the place to sort of kick around from there. But it was pretty sobering when the council reported $3.8 million loss on a recent project of bore and investigations. Not the forum to go through that one, but there's obviously some deep thinking to do on what happened there, what went through from there. Maybe annual plan consultation may have improved that decision-making process. We'll never know because council never asked us. Maybe it would have been useless, who knows? On that theme, the recent press statements on the 3.8 million blowout is really PR speak. You've had the PR team working on that, obviously. It's side-rounding the accountability issues, and it's actually giving false hope to ratepayers that the Martin water quality problems will be significantly improved in the short term. Once again, that's another discussion anyway, and it's more than just a straight opinion, it's fact. The content of that recent article is, you choose the word. I know what I think, but you know from your perspective how you think of that. Okay, someone obviously needs to put up a few rounds of cakes for the morning tea.
One more minute if you want.
Sure, okay. Okay, RMR's expectation is the AP should have flagged the Central District water thing coming in. It's a red flag. It's going to cost ratepayers a lot of money. It's probably going to take it from both pockets rather than one. It should have come up as an issue. And a strong recommendation by RMR that Martin water quality improvement projections be set up for community consultation outside the AP or with it, whatever it is. There's obviously a timing difficulty at the moment. And that should have come about with the Martin Swim Centre. It's not in the LTP, it's not costed in the AP, nor is it open to community consultation. So it would be great to get some information from the draft AP on what the budget is for costings and for the centre. A generic concern, Mr. Peter Beggs, in his tenure as a CE, made a statement after what happened at Te Mata Pihi. He says that this cannot be repeated. Preventive measures being put in place. It's hard to see where those preventive mechanisms have been put in place or not. You're proposing to spend 40 million in CapEx, yet you can only achieve 38% capital achievement. A couple of years back, you cranked it up to about 60% recently. That doesn't bode well to be able to hang 40 million CapEx in this particular year. So what are the financial implications? Doesn't have to be detailed, but the implications are there. People are scared. People are scared what's going to happen to their rates. Palmerston North.
Jeff, I'm sorry you are out of time.
Sorry, thank you. Yep, we'll finish off. That's okay.
It's a pity because I think there would have been some questions that we would have loved to have answered.
Okay,
but
I'm open for conversation any other time to anyone, whatever it is, and get it. So if you know where I live, so go for that. That's fine. Go.
Thank you, the interested resident from Arthur.
Jeff.
10 minutes goes fast, I'll tell you.
It does, and that's why I tried to say to you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Next up, we have Peter and Daryl Cousins. If you would like to go down to the end of the table.
Welcome. Well, my submission's going to be one that you can make up a lot of time. Okay, so principally my submission initially is around about swimming pools and the fees charged to inspect, right? I've been obviously advised through lots of correspondence, the $250 fee was set by council and it can't be varied. It certainly doesn't relate to adjoining councils. Manawatu's fee is $118 and Wanganui's is $85, right? And ours is $255. Now, having run my own business for 45 years, I understand the need for efficiency, and also I've learned about the real power of good communication, and that's something that I have not received from the council executives. I accept and understand council requirements and obligation regarding pools, and there are some costs that have to be shared, but some costs are surely identifiable on a case-by-case basis. I couldn't believe when I made inquiries that the council doesn't actually have a database with all the pools. So on the basis, I run a classic car park. I've got 180 people on my database. I can communicate, send them emails out. It's a 10-second thing. So sending out individual emails today is actually not really that practical. So then when I looked, I went to AI and I asked them, how many different pool categories are there? And it came back with 4. Standalone pools, pools attached to dwellings, fully enclosed pools, and spa pools and hot tubs. I then asked AI to draw up a checklist based on New Zealand Standard 8,500, based around each one of those pools, and up comes a big list. So therefore, my pool is totally enclosed. The people came to inspect it, they arrived at 8:30, they're gone at 8:35. Now, if there'd been some sort of flexibility in terms of different pool types, then it would have made it a hell of a lot easier. And that's what I'm saying. And also, this is my final point. When the council made the initial contact with me about I was going to have my pool inspected, surprise, surprise, I sort of thought, okay, what are they going to inspect? I would have expected in that letter or email to have come to have been quite helpful for me as a pool owner, i.e. you have a link to New Zealand Standard 8,500 saying this is the standard that you have to meet. And basically you could send out those 4 checklists and say, if you've got a standalone pool, this is the things you must check. All that could be emailed to the customer prior to inspection. I think it's silly. And at the end of the letter, it said, if you fail, we have to come back. We're going to charge you extra. Now, to me, that's absolutely ridiculous. You've got to be able to inform the customer what he needs to do. So when you arrive, he's done all the checks. So that's basically my submission.
Peter, are you quite happy to take questions?
Yes.
I'll start. I don't see any other hands up. In terms of principle, do you believe there should be a set charge to each pool or varied according to cost? And the reason I ask
I think certain components have to be shared. Obviously, I'm close by the council, it takes environment, but somebody up at Taihape and so forth. So I think the travel costs, the vehicle running costs should be shared amongst the number of people having pools.
That's useful. Thank you. Other councillors, Councillor Wilson.
Just, hey, Peter, just having a look at a letter here that you received on the 3rd of December from council. It says here that you've got a couple of options: engage in IQP, independent qualified pool inspector. Did you inquire on that at all?
I did.
And what was the outcome of that?
Well, the nearest one was Levin.
Yep.
And his travelling time was going to be pretty excessive, as you can understand.
Okay, so there's nobody else locally then from that inquiry. Okay.
I actually did think about becoming a pool inspector myself.
That was the second part of my question, not whether you're going to do that, but whether or not you've done that. Okay, so you did engage and okay, thank you.
The questions for councillors.
One subsequent, one more, if I may. How old's your pool? Is it a new pool? Is it an old pool?
2 years old. Signed off 2 years ago.
Okay, cool, thank you.
So, subsequent to that, what's your understanding of how regularly we check, or is it random selected check, or what?
I understand they're supposed to be checked every 3 years.
Mhm.
And I've actually had a date at which the next check will be. In 3 years' time.
Thank you. By the way, do you know of any near neighbours that have swimming pools where they checked at the same time?
I was unaware of that, but I would have thought the council staff would have looked at their efficiencies and said, right, we're going to do Martin today and tomorrow, and therefore then we go to Tai Happy or wherever and do all those later. So I would hope that the council staff are looking at efficiencies rather than just add-on costs.
And so you said in your submission that we have no database of pools. How?
Well, it would appear not.
What? How would we then, without that database, have contacted you? Surely there must be some
I don't
system.
know. I imagine there's a mechanism, maybe through the building application when I built the pool.
Okay, so that would indicate
That
there
would
is some
trigger it,
database. Okay. Any other questions, councillors? Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you for your time.
We've made up a bit of time.
Thank you.
We welcome back to the fray Tim Matthews. Tim, you know the rule, and how you use that time is yours. But we welcome and we value your submissions, and we acknowledge your absolute background within, fed farmers. The time is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. I hope that my submission is actually fairly concise and informative, and shouldn't be any questions on the content rather than what I'm trying to achieve. But I just find this year, and also welcome to our new Chief Executive. I haven't met you before. I have a problem with the readability, the understanding of our annual plan documents. And in fact, we've regressed in terms of being able to understand it from the public point of view. It might be fine for somebody in the audit office, but it really doesn't have good readability. And we don't have the information to make a really good informed decision because we can't see what categories of expenditure occur now. And so hopefully you people will have received a handout. I tried to put it electronically into my submission, but there was considered that there was private information, which there wasn't. It's all public information, which you should have received this morning or but not 2 days ago when you could have had a better chance to understand it. I apologise for that. But what I'm asking for is better information so that people that read the annual plan can actually understand what they're being rated for. And that's the chief part of my submission. The other thing is the affordability of rates. And why are we increasing the general rate? We've kept the UAGC fairly low, but we're increasing the general rate by a rate over the whole district on capital value, not a targeted rate. And I have real problems with the revenue and financing policy and the amendment, which has allowed this to happen, because the effect of it is that I'm only a few dollars behind my roading rate. In terms of general rate, it's only a few dollars behind. And I'd way rather that extra money was going into the roads, which can be added to the transit financial assistance rate. I don't think you can really justify spreading the general rate over the capital values of farms. And I look at the properties in town, one's around here, within walking distance of the swimming pool, for instance. We're talking $350,000 to $550,000 for the smaller sections. They're paying $500 to $700 for their general rate in addition to the UAGC. I'm paying considerably more, and yet I've only been to the swimming pool once, and that was not from one lack of choice. It was just that I don't do a lot of business in Martin, apart from paying my rates. And the problem is that it appears to be trying to get an affordability tick on the rates by going easy on the lower valued rateable properties. And it seems to be the higher rated properties are paying the difference. And I'm not sure that it is in fact the council, while the council must have regard to affordability under the Local Government Act 2002, it is not actually the council's job to make sure that people can pay. And that's why people can have the rates rebate scheme. It's not funded by the council, even though they partly administer it. It's funded by the government. And I think that's where the affordability question should lie. And I don't think it's this council's decision to decide what is affordable for some people and is not affordable for others. While you must think about that in terms of your overall expenditure, I'm not sure that you're in a position to know whether your ratepayers have the income or the financial backing, or in fact the capital value to pay for it. And I'd really like you to prove that I'm wrong, because it's causing a huge disparity in terms of service of what we get from a general rate. So we'd like to see a higher UAGC rate, because that more fairly represents where the costs lie. You know, there's some pretty big ticket items apart from the swimming pool, and part of the late stuff that was attached as an appendix, you will see a breakdown of those rates back in 2017, which is the earliest one that I could find on my computer as to what I paid for each sector of that expenditure. That's not in this year's annual plan. It should be. We should know exactly what proportion of our rates is going to what, whether it be visitor information, whether it be district promotion. I, as a farmer, get very little benefit from it. And okay, I do not spend enough time in Martin or Hunterwood, but I should be able to see exactly what I'm spending and who it's going to. And every ratepayer should be able to see that. We could do it in 2017. Why can't we do it now? It's in the first page of my rates account. So, sorry, it's the third page of the rates account. I think we can do better. That's pretty much it. I have included a sort of a sensitivity analysis, which is this one with a big table of stuff. That just shows what each capital value in the district pays in terms of the UAGC compared to the general rate and compared to their capital value. Unfortunately, farmers have a business that relies on a lot of land, which means a lot of capital value. Most other businesses, it's not a huge proportion. And I think we've been penalised just because our business depends on needing a bit of land to make an income from. I'd really like some questions that can make me think otherwise.
Councillor Rakawa, then myself. Councillor.
Kia ora, Jim. Thank you very much for your submission. You say that we've regressed in terms of the annual plan booklet. What risk do you think this creates for public participation?
People can't see where their rates are going. Sure, there's an allocation in the system for district promotion. There's what, 15 categories of general rating funding. When people can see how much they're actually paying from their rates, and it usually comes in the first rate demand of the year, you can see, do I see value for this? And that's what gets people off their bums and come to talk to you people and say, look, what value am I getting from this? Do we really want to spend money on this? Or is it a scheme and a dream that somebody else has had? I think.
Two questions from me. First of all, within the booklet is this daily rates breakdown, which is focused really on the average household. I agree, accept that, but it does detail where the money is spent.
There's only about 10 categories, 7 categories there.
About 10 or 12, whatever it is.
Whereas on the sheet that I sent in as an appendix, there are about 25 odd categories of expenditure.
So accept that. But it's essentially what you're asking really is a transition from the general rate capital value to either a UAGC or a user fee.
Not necessarily. It's really what you categorise as being a general rate rather than a targeted rate.
So in those, are there any categories that you would like to see? Can you name one that should be under a UAGC?
Probably can't find it quickly for you, but there are a number of things. There are. I don't think your process in the revenue and financing policy is robust enough to identify the uses, and it's very silent. Even the new amended revenue and financing policy is very silent on how you arrived at the need to change the general rate to the split. I would really like to see some detail as to why suddenly I'm paying nearly the same for a general rate as I am for my roading rate.
Other councillors?
Just for clarify, that this information is in the late submitted. That was only put up this morning.
Yes, I apologise for that. It wasn't my intention. It was with the people first thing Monday morning, but they thought it was private information.
I may not have picked that up this morning.
Yeah.
I apologise for that.
That's right.
I've been sharing for 7 days and I've lost track of time totally.
We only have about a minute left. Any further questions?
Just one very quick one. Tim, so is there one specific thing that you would say would answer what it is that you're requesting here? Because I mean, you've got a lot of detail and you've gone to a lot of trouble to give us know. What specifically do you think we should be doing as a council here?
If we looked at the categories, council and that sort of expenditure is obviously one. The swimming pools, the parks and reserves are biggies, libraries obviously. But there's some others like building inspection, district planning. You know, a lot of us never have any interaction with district planning other than when we go for a consent to do something. The rest of us, and that goes for people in town too. You know, we heard about swimming pools not that long ago.
So just on that further from us, so with regards to the document, you'd like to see that broken down, because I know what you're referring to. You get that rate assessment, says this is what it's going to be, and it's got a lot more detail than you actually get the rates.
That's the 2017 version. Yeah. I've given you the 2025 version. Yeah. It doesn't have it.
So you'd like to see some of that information broken down in our annual plan document?
It should be in the annual plan document too. And when I asked our finance manager to give me a breakdown of how it worked for my particular rate, he said, I can't do that for you. The information must be there because it drives the spreadsheet that everything else spits out from, I assume, because it can't be plucked out of thin air.
Thank you.
We unfortunately are out of time.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to us and giving up your day to listen to people like me.
No, we actually value to keep your submission.
I think we can do better, but things could get very interesting in the next 12 months.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. And just the way councillors that the submission was on a separate table document.
I get to sit down, it's quite formal.
I think you're submitting on behalf of the trust.
Yep.
Welcome. I think you know the rules.
Yes.
Okay. 10 minutes, including questions. I'll try and remind you about a minute out if you're still speaking.
Well, I actually hopefully don't have too much to say. I just want to first of all introduce myself. I'm Heidi McCauley. I'm the Bullsland District Community Coordinator, for those of you who don't know. I also want to thank Council for all the support that you give us and all the work we do with our funding and things. I would like to take my initial letter as read and tabled. I would just like to point something out to that original document, the number 2 point request for additional funding for the Bulls structure maintenance. I just want to clarify that is, we're asking for that for our bulls on the private land, not the public land that council has already agreed to keep. maintained.
The time is rolling.
Yeah, so do I have any questions?
Well, congratulations, you should go into the draw for something, but councillor Charlotte.
How many bulls have we currently got?
So we've got 17 in total. That includes 3 families. So we got bulls. That's so there's 2 cows. Sorry, 3 cows and actually 4 calves. Yeah.
I'm not sure that people online would understand quite that, but that's fine.
So I did send in a document that was like just that it wasn't to be tabled as such, but just to give a whole lot of information about the trust and the bulls for those of you who don't know much about what we do. Yeah. I can talk to that if you want me to.
We've got that. I'll take questions. Councillor O'Carroll.
Heidi, thank you very much. How many on private land? How many were you looking at?
So on private land, there's my picture, this one here. So the ones that I have on private land are, well, it's not technically private land. So the other side of the bridge is Manawatu, so Wakakatahi, NZTA. So that's one of them that's not under the Rangatiki boundary that we have to look after. We also have the bull at the BP. We have the bull at Mint Cafe, La Bull Cafe, Rangatiki Tavern, Bulls Fire Station, Bulls Bridge, which I just mentioned, Keith Hay Homes, and the Bulls Domain, because it's actually on the rugby club. It's right at the front door. So I've just got just a bit of history about that. When we originally got them put in, Wakakatahi back then said we don't actually want them on state highways because there was too much red tape you had to go through. They actually said, hey, put them on private land because it took it out of their jurisdiction.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Charlotte.
What are they constructed of?
Fiberglass.
They are fiberglass.
Yes. They've had their backs strengthened a few years back because those of you who aren't aware, many people sit on them, like stag doos, children, families. Yeah, so they get a lot of attention, and the tails get broken as well because the kids stand on the tail to climb on the back. Yeah, and they had to also be hollow fiberglass, so if a vehicle did hit them, it's not a solid. Yeah.
Councillor Wilson.
Heidi, some time ago, and referring back to that strength and stuff, and that was funded as a request to council to fund that, or did that did?
It went through council. So originally there was the placemaking.
That's right.
So all the bulls went under the placemaking. We look after them. We're the caretakers, and any work that needed to be done, we got it done, and we invoiced council, and they paid back that back. Yeah. Since then, that's gone, and they were then assigned to artwork, and council only funds artwork on public land. This is what I've been told. Yeah. So it means the bulls aren't included, and they're looking tatty.
Okay. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Wong.
Hi, Chief. Northern Ward Councillor. I appreciate the bulls and bulls. Being part of the community trust, you'd be applying for a lot of funding. I guess is that correct? Have you looked at any other funding options for the maintenance of the bulls?
No.
Thank you.
Because council have always maintained it. Yeah. Yep. And can I just talk to that quickly too? I don't know how it would look us applying for maintenance for half the bulls when council are looking after half of them, not the others. So I don't know how that would look as a funding. I'm not sure. You might question it.
Councillor Petty.
I understand you have MOU with council. Yes. Is it something that could be included in that?
That's what I've requested is for to an $3,000 per year increase in our current MOU to look after them. Yep.
If there was something that, bearing in mind that we are constrained.
Yes.
If we were going to put that into your MOU as a $2,000 cost, is there anything that is currently in your MOU that could be reduced?
Because I'm actually already asking for an increase in the MOU in the same year. And the percentage rate. Off the top of my head, I couldn't say. As you know, funding's tight and everything we do, we're getting less and less money for everything we do, and everything is funded to keep us going.
Yeah, but you're aware of our circumstance.
Yeah, I get, yeah.
Councillor.
Do you have an adoptable scheme?
And actually, you mean as someone owning a bull? And
No, I mean like a local business saying, oh, that's my bull. I'm going to make sure he's kept clean.
We've had lots of businesses ask for something similar, but they don't want to just clean it. They want to paint them and make them their colours, and we don't want that. As a community, we want to keep our branding the same, and that's Black Bulls. Something we could do that, but I don't know what they'd get back out of that because they're just cleaning them. We've already got volunteers that'll do most of the work. It's just when we get the old breakage and to pay for paint, got someone who'll paint them, but the actual paint itself is a few $100s to get the right paint. But don't know how that would look, sorry.
Okay, unless there's anybody else. No. Heidi, thank you, and pass our thanks on to the trust.
I will.
You know, the history of the trust is a very, very good one, and we take your requests.
And I appreciate yours, so thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kilda.
Thanks, Heidi. Thank you. Councillor staff, before I close the meeting, is there anything further that I need to do?
Yes, could we just do a little tidy up? We didn't vote on receiving the report. We can do that.
I thought I did that in typing. Okay, would somebody move that we receive the reports? Thank you, Councillor Charlotte, Councillor Buckendale, both.
We moved in second, you just didn't vote.
Oh, okay, we did move in second.
You did move in second, you just didn't vote.
Oh, okay, well, who was the move in second, I think?
You were the mover, Councillor Long was the seconder.
I thought it had been done. Right, put it to the vote. Those in favour?
Aye.
Check the records. Carried, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anything else, staff? We'll close the meeting, shut down.